Start spreading the news. Thank God I left today. I was in New York. I was in New York for the hearings, and all of you who watched Sean Hannity probably saw some of what I experienced while I was in New York City at the House Judiciary hearing. It was intense. It was probably one of the most, and this was for victims in crime in New York, probably one of the most, I would say, emotionally driven hearings I had been to in a long time. And this is about a city that has slowly over the last year and a half, maybe the last 2 years, progressively gotten worse. There was a time when New York was just horrible. You couldn't get on the subway. You couldn't do anything. Then came along Rudy Giuliani and others, and they cleaned up the streets in New York. People felt safer. They could get out there. And then all of a sudden, we're back to the same old Democrat policies. And New Yorkers and people who work there like me are slowly watching as the city becomes a cesspool again for derelicts and criminals and sadly a large homeless population that is mentally ill. And oh, by the way, for all of you out there who know who Congressman Adam Schiff is, he is part of the Judiciary Committee. Yes. And I have this funny little moment where when I was interviewing Congresswoman Elise Stefanik right before she came out, I just saw Schiff passing, like he came out of a door. I came right by him. And yes, it wasn't like two ships passing in the night. It wasn't like that. It was like opposing polarity. As we passed each other, there was this weird kind of repel moment where my body just felt like it was flinging back against the wall inside the courtroom. And I was like, what is going on here? I look, there it was. It was Adam Schiff. I'll be back in a moment. Allegiance Gold and silver allow you to protect what you've worked so hard for. And it allows you to get control and privacy back, right, over your finances. And you all see what's happening today. You see what's happening in the United States of America, my gosh, right? In the United States, where banks have become so woke that they will literally remove you and your business from their establishment if you don't agree with their ideas or their crazy ideologies. You don't want that to happen to you. You need to diversify. And you're also watching the stock market. I am too. So is my husband. Things are not, I really believe that things are going to go sideways. I mean, I can't prove it. I don't know it. Like you, it's always a guess, right? But you're already seeing things move sideways, and recession is around the corner. For some people, recession is already here. Gas was over $5 when I was in Scottsdale at one of the Exxons. It was like $5.50 a gallon for 89 unleaded. That was crazy. So you want to diversify. You want to save your money. You don't know what's going to happen. Now, this decision is all up to you. But my friends at Allegiance Gold can help you protect your IRA, your 401k with physical gold and silver. They can have it delivered securely right to your door. Think about that. That's pretty awesome. Allegiance Gold also has the highest ratings in the industry. And that's why this is so important to me. They have 5 stars with TrustLink, AAA rated with the Business Consumer Alliance, and they have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. You cannot get better than that. Get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait. Call or click today. 1-877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, S-A-R-A. Or go to protectwithsara.com, no H. That is protectwithsara, S-A-R-A.com. We can't control the Biden administration, folks. We can't control necessarily what is happening with our economy, but we can prepare. That's 877-702. That's 877-702-SARA, S-A-R-A, or protectwithsara.com. The hearing. Here's Alvin Bragg, the DA, Manhattan District Attorney, slinging the mud, right? I mean, he's already got President Trump wrapped up in his pretty little political hat. He is now going after, Chairman Jim Jordan of the House Judiciary Committee. And Chairman Jordan, of course, is saying, you know what? You want to sue me? because I want to find out the truth. Because let's be honest, folks, even if everything's political, right? This is Washington, D.C. These are political players. These are political hawks. But let's just be straight up about Alvin Bragg. His city is turning upside down. And as a DA, he is soft on crime. Oh, he's tough on President Trump. But he has reduced felons to misdemeanors by, it's insane. Crime has gone up over 23% in the city since he's been there. We have, victims testifying about what is going on. And I'm going to get into the victims in a minute. But Alvin Bragg basically is laser focused on destroying President Trump. So Jim Jordan is like, well, we got to figure this out. We got to figure out why. And by the way, it's not just Republicans that were saying that. Even the former governor that I can't stand, Cuomo, the former governor of New York that I cannot stand, he even said, this is a political game. This is way too political. They shouldn't bring these charges against President Trump. By the way, very weak charges related to business and the non-disclosure agreement and Stormy Daniels and the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement for her not to talk and this and that. And by the way, Stormy Daniels lost when Trump sued her. Yep, lost. So now they're going to bring these charges, these very weak charges against President Trump. It's wasting taxpayer dollars. It's ridiculous. New York City is seeing crime surging again. And it's not going to stop. It's just going to keep going. And they like to play with stats at the hearing. They like to play with stats, right? I'm going to play with stats because New York is better than it was in the 70s. Well, yeah, it is. You can thank Rudy Giuliani and Republicans and others for that. But certainly not Alvin Bragg. And certainly not, the Democrats in charge. We can see what's happening in Democratic cities all across the United States. My gosh, look at the last 4 nights in Chicago, where teenagers are creating these swarms, right, through social media. And they're crowding into areas and they're destroying Walmarts and they're targeting innocent people. Are we raising children to act like animals? This is crazy. How do we allow this to happen? I'll tell you how we allow it to happen. We have Democrats in charge of some of our major urban cities. And these aren't the Democrats, the blue-collar, hardworking Democrats of the past. These are the Democrats that were taught and ideologically motivated to not only believe in this extreme Marxism and leftist ideology, but they indoctrinate their children and they indoctrinate their cities and they run their cities like this. And they're the useful idiots. I'm going to say that again. They are the useful idiots. They aren't that smart. Some of them might be. Some of them might know the game, right? They might be playing the game because they know the game, because they truly believe that you should have no say over your child, that the state has a say over your kid, and that you should stay out of their federalizing everything. They want you to accept everything. It's not the United States of America that we're called the United States. But they want to run things like communists run them. And that means you have to accept all of what they are dishing out. And I could see it. It was so devastating to me. And I'm going to get into the victims in a moment and their testimony. But I really, really want you to listen to one of the most ridiculous people on Capitol Hill, and I was talking to my producers about this, but literally one of the dumbest on Capitol Hill. And this gentleman insulted the victims that had come to testify before Jim Jordan's committee. Not only them, but Adam Schiff did the same thing. It seemed like every single Democrat that was sitting there at this hearing on the panel was putting down these victims and not even allowing them to talk about their feelings. Listen to this. This is Hank Johnson, Congressman Hank Johnson of Georgia.
Violence. The Republican witnesses who have used their time to criticize District Attorney Bragg have served as props in a MAGA Broadway production. The real purpose in coming to New York City.
Can we have order?
The real purpose in coming to New York City.
Gentlemen, will suspend.
Stop the clock.
Gentlemen, will suspend. For the audience, I've said several times now that the committee has to be in order. If anyone continues, then we're going to have to escort some people out.
Please don't talk that. Please don't talk down to us witnesses, please.
Please don't talk down to us witnesses, please. But that's all they did. They weren't listening to what was going on. Let's just say regardless that this is a political stunt, which the left is saying, regardless of anything and everything that is being expressed between those lawmakers at that hearing. When you have witnesses who have lost children, who have been beaten in the streets of New York because they're Jewish, who have been stabbed in their bodega, and then defended themselves only to end up in prison, you better listen. You better listen to them. It was gut-wrenching to see what was happening inside the city. It was just, I couldn't believe my eyes as I was sitting there. And by the way, I was sitting on the Democrat side of the hearing. So I wasn't with the Republicans. I went to the table with all the lefties. Imagine that. So I was like literally staring right at Hank Johnson when he was saying that. I think my mouth was hanging open, just kind of like, and then it was funny. I got a text from the Brave Books. Of course, I hope you all who have children, by the way, I'm going to talk about it really quick before I go on, because my publisher from Brave Books said, "Hey, are you wearing a gray suit jacket?" And I was like, "Yes, where are you?" And he said, "I'm watching you. You're sitting at the hearing." And that's for my book, Joining the Amazing Club, Awesome Sauce for Kids. A great book that teaches virtues so that your children will understand that there are rules and that rules are meant to protect everyone. Guys, because what I've been seeing, not only in New York City, but I've been seeing on the news in Chicago and watching young people just terrorize their city. And where are their parents, right? Where's law enforcement? When children are raiding a Walmart and just ripping it apart. When I go to New York City, by the way, and I'm in the city and I'm going to get to the witnesses in a minute because I really want to give them the full amount of time, but I want to tell you what it was like for me really quick in New York City because I understand how they feel. It is dangerous. Not only are you dealing with criminals that think that they can get away with whatever they want because they're getting off scot-free. There is no repercussions for anything that they do, really. It's like a revolving door. I mean, recidivism is through the roof in New York City. You get arrested, you're out in like 2 days, you're doing it again, right? People are not getting charged. And some of the victims laid that out very clearly at the hearing. But I'm in New York City. I'm coming down 48th Street towards Fox News, right? On Avenue of the Americas. I'm on 48th, and there's this guy that's homeless that kind of hangs out there. He's mentally ill. And there's a lot of kids and there's a lot of people and there's other homeless people in the area, but not as, it's not as heavy right there. There's just a few of them. But this guy's kind of like a staple. I've seen him there before. And he apparently has schizophrenia. Sometimes I see him talking to himself. And then sometimes he becomes very like aggressively screaming at passerbyers, right? And he did that with me a little bit. And I turned around and I could see him staring at me and this really amazing woman who stopped to talk to me. And she was just wonderful. She was a paralegal in the city. And she's like, "Are you Sara Carter?" I couldn't even believe she recognized me. My hair was like in a bun. I was like making my way back from Sean Hannity's radio show. And I was walking down the street. My friend Linda dropped me off there and I was coming down the street. And I just couldn't even believe that I had like a fan in New York because I was just like, wait a minute. Not everybody is watching MSNBC there. Not everybody. And so I'm talking to her and she and I are having this great conversation. She's telling me about Israel. Hi, Susan, if you're listening to the podcast. And we were talking. And as we were wrapping up, I could hear that man behind me still, but I was not prepared for what I was about to see. I turn around and his pants are all the way down. He's literally butt naked. Like he is just like bent over, facing us. And there was, I don't even want to say this because I don't want to gross you guys out, but I'm going to have to because you have to understand how bad this is. There was feces all over him. And so she and I both saw that. We broke it off. She walked towards wherever she was going. I immediately went into the street. I didn't go down the sidewalk by this gentleman at all. I walked down the street, this one-way street, by, blocking him off with the SUVs that were in the street. Obviously, he's mentally ill. Obviously, it's dangerous to have him like on the streets like this. Why? Because as I get to my hotel and I'm getting towards Fox, there's a family out front taking pictures and they hadn't seen him yet. And they have 3 little kids under the age of 7, right? And they were doing pictures like a baby, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old maybe. And I have to stop them and I tell them, don't go down there because there's this man standing and I was afraid that he would touch the children or throw something. I didn't know what was going on, right? I didn't want to think about it. I just wanted to warn them. And the mother thanked me profusely for telling her because then she realized when she looked, she went across the street and she saw it and she was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is what happens. It's a busy city. You can't always be watching everything around you, right? And you end up becoming a victim. I had a moment to meet Madeline Brame. She lost her son. He was murdered in 2018. And she was one of the witnesses that testified. And she was absolutely amazing. Amazing. She was absolutely amazing. She laid it into the Democrats. She was like, don't you insult my intelligence. Don't you insult my intelligence. When they kept saying that they were being used as pawns in a Republican game. She's like, they're the only ones that want to listen to me.
Being able to let our child go out to the park and play without getting shot in the stroller. We care about not getting raped in elevators. We don't care nothing about your statistics. You cannot convince us to not believe our lying eyes with your numbers, all right? Because we see it with our very eyes, day in and day out, especially in the poor Black and brown communities, where none of you in this room would even step foot in.
And now let's go to the bodega owner, Jose Alba, whose lawyer was there. He was there to discuss what I can only imagine has to be an extraordinarily traumatizing situation. Here is an elderly man who is in a bodega, runs a bodega, and he is being threatened by a couple that has come in to rob him. They're threatening his life. He's 61 years old, and he defends himself. He stabs the assailant inside the store, right? He stabs the assailant inside the store, and then he ends up getting arrested for defending his life. It was all caught on camera. Jose Alba is filing a suit next month. By the way, he was stabbed too in the arm. And Jose Alba basically was put in prison, though. He had to sit in prison in Rikers Island for a while. They took him into custody. And now he's filing a suit in New York. I am so glad that he is doing that. In September, he filed notices of claim against the city and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, none other than Alvin Bragg, for $10 million, alleging they wrongfully brought a case against him for fatally stabbing ex-con Austin Simon, 35, in self-defense on July 1st, 2022. Can you imagine what he went through in Rikers Island? That is I'm telling you, that is one place that nobody really wants to go, right? Can you imagine the criminals that were in there with him? Can you imagine what he went through, his family went through? But this is the crazy thing. Alvin Bragg won't file charges against criminals. No, it's like a rotating door in New York. And Alvin Bragg, indirectly but directly, is one of those DAs, George Soros funded DAs, right? These leftist ideologies, these no bail, low bail guys that cares more about the criminals in the city than the actual victims and business owners. So Jose Alba was there. He was at the hearing, but his lawyer was there representing him. And he allowed his lawyer to read his testimony that he gave to the lawyer before the hearing. This was very emotional. Listen to this.
I took pride in the hard work I put in every day at the store to earn my own money and support myself and my family. That is when I encountered a true and real threat to my life. After I simply told a woman that she could not have potato chips because her payment was declined. I was face to face with her boyfriend, who seemed ready to kill me. He attacked me violently, threw me around the store. The woman stabbed me herself. I truly believed they were there to kill me. So faced with this, I did what I knew I had to do to save my life. What the law allows me to do to save my life. I stabbed that man in self-defense. But when the police came, even though I was injured myself, I was placed under arrest. I was taken to jail. When I came before the judge, the prosecutor said I was being charged with murder in the second degree. They asked for bail, even though so many people are being let go these days. And I couldn't afford it. So I went to Rikers Island. I was forced into a crowded and unsafe intake cell. Even though I was injured, in jail I didn't get the medical treatment I should have received. I spent almost a week in Rikers Island before bail was lowered and I could be released. I was forced to endure the harsh conditions on Rikers Island as an innocent man. I still don't know why I was charged with murder. I believe that law enforcement and the DA's office didn't investigate the case fully. They rushed to judgment, and I suffered because of it. Even though the charges were ultimately dropped, they should not have been brought against me to begin with. I am now traumatized from the incident. I am not working because I am terrified for my life that someone in a gang will come after me for revenge. I was injured physically and mentally because of the incident and my unlawful arrest and incarceration. My story is one that should not happen again. Crime does not discriminate on the basis of a political party. It needs to be addressed by law enforcement on the street and by prosecutors in the court. But it has to be aimed at the people committing crime, not an innocent man like me. And the next time an innocent man does nothing but protect their own life in self-defense from a violent attack, they should not be made the villain, but instead treated with care and compassion as the victim.
Right. Right. Isn't that crazy? That we live in a world where the victims are being treated like criminals and the criminals are being treated like victims. I want you to think about this. That entire escalation, that man attacked Mr. Alba because his girlfriend, Tina Lee, who, by the way, stabbed Mr. Alba in the arms. You could see all those injuries in his arms in the video after he had been accosted and was trying to save his life because it's a much younger, stronger man going after him, was there to buy a bag of potato chips, apparently for her 10-year-old daughter, and her EBT debit card wouldn't go through. All of that, their death, what happened to Mr. Alba, going to Rikers Island for a week under those horrific conditions. I'm so glad he's suing. Everything that has happened all culminated with the fact that a debit card did not go through. What kind of a world are we living in? Think about what happened to that poor woman in Chicago, beaten by a mob in the street for fun, just for fun. And by the way, folks, the leadership in Chicago was like, well, we shouldn't really disparage the youth because they were protesting. What? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? First of all, children need moral guidance. They want it. Children are children. They're begging for someone to care about them, to love them. Nobody loves those children in Chicago. And when those teenagers made a decision to go out into the streets and beat up an innocent person, an innocent woman, another human being with human rights, or they tore up the Walmart, or they're terrorizing people in their city, they have ceased. I'm sorry. They have given up a lot of their rights. They should be arrested. They should be prosecuted. Why are they treated any differently than, January 6th? Breaking a window, going into the Capitol. By the way, I'm not saying any of it's okay. But why do they get a pass? You should think about it. Why do they get a pass? And imagine if you were in that position. I want you to take a listen to an audience member that had to be removed by the police. There were people in the audience that were just screaming mad at the Democrats. And I thought this was kind of amazing. It was kind of like a highlight moment of the hearing because, and I got it on video. I was sitting right there, and just take a look for yourself.
Got you all on video with your face with no attention to
Donald
people
J.
who
Trump.
are testifying about their family dying. You guys are scumbags. All of you, every one of you.
Thank you for being here today. The audience has to be in order. Capitol, please.
You guys will let it go.
Capitol,
Alvin Bragg
please.
is the reason, and please tell them who won this election. This wouldn't be here. You wouldn't need to be in New York City. This is all because of Alvin Bragg.
Can we have
Alvin
order?
Bragg.
We're working on
Alvin
this,
Bragg.
Mr. Schiff, gentlemen.
Alvin Bragg and
Capitol,
Barker,
please give the gentleman from the audience. No, you gotta go. You gotta go. I'm sorry. We've given you several warnings. You gotta go, unfortunately.
So that was very intense. There was so much commotion. I was actually a little concerned because I'm thinking, like, I know people get checked as they come in, but there were, a lot of emotions, very strong emotions, but most of the people, and they were angry, and I would be too. If I lived in a city where the criminals were being treated like, gold, and victims were being tossed aside left and right, like Madeline Brame says, my son died. He lost his life. He'll never have birthday parties again. He'll never have his family again. He'll never see his friends again. It's over for him. He's done. She's like, my son who served in the military, his life is over because these thugs decided to take his life. Right? And people are angry because they want to be able to enjoy their communities. They want to go to a park with their child. They want to walk down a sidewalk without somebody pulling their pants down and acting like an animal. They want to be able to live in safe communities. You want to be able to live in safe communities. You don't want to have to deal with that. You don't want to have to walk your child around that. Remember when I was in Pennsylvania, guys? And I was down in Kensington and parents were literally walking over drug addicts, people on fentanyl and heroin, just mulling about in the streets like zombies with needles everywhere. With all the taxpayer dollars, the richest nation on planet Earth, why in the world are our major urban cities just cesspools and filled with violence? We have to ask that question. Your taxpayer dollars are definitely not being used in the right way. Your taxpayer dollars are being wasted. And why do we keep voting people into office that don't want to do anything to help your community? Why? This is going to be the last clip I'm going to play, and then I'm going to wrap it up. But I want you to hear it because I believe victims and I believe our law enforcement deserve to have a voice. This is New York City Detectives Endowment Association president on the counterproductive policies coming out of Alvin Bragg's office. It's Paul DiGiacomo. Here's the clip.
District Attorney Bragg took an oath to uphold the law and not to downgrade crimes that have an effect on victims of New York City. The Detectives Endowment Association has been saying this for 3 years now, that a lot of the laws that have been enacted here in New York City and New York State are counterproductive to the safety of the people of New York City. The bail reform laws. There is a direct correlation from when the bail reform laws were enacted to day one to the uptick in violent crimes across New York City. Shootings have increased. Gun violence has increased. Illegal guns coming into New York City has increased dramatically. But we talk about the 7 majors, the felony crimes that are affecting people in New York City. But as important as those felony crimes that are violating the people across this city are many low-level crimes that are not even being addressed that affect the victims for many, many years to come. Sexual-related crimes on the subways and throughout the city streets are increasing. Assaults on police officers are increasing.
And I can go on and on and on. And exposure, men on the streets or women exposing themselves to children or to other women, like I had to witness. What do you think foreigners think when they get to New York and they hear about this amazing city and they want to go see a show and they're getting ready to go out at night, and what they see is a dirty city with, homeless everywhere, nobody helping them, mentally ill people walking the streets, and danger around every corner? What do you think goes through people's minds when they see that, when that's their first experience in America? Very, very sad. Alvin Bragg should be ashamed of himself. He has politicized his office. He is targeting a former president for political reasons solely. He has no case there. And what he has done to the people in his own community is shameful. And what he's done to the state of New York is shameful. Thank you so much. Don't let that happen in your community. Stay strong. Know who you're voting for. Know the people that are in your community, that are a part of your life. They really are. Even if you don't know them now, they will one day. They may be there for you. Let's get to know our law enforcement officers. Let's stand with them. Let's stand proud with them. Let's work with people in our communities to make our communities beautiful, safe, and strong for our children. Let's pray about it. Let's think about it. Let's do it, right? Let's just do it. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on Twitter at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our great nation. God bless New York City. And God bless the great state of Texas.